Hey everyone, I wrote down a few points from the last week, stuff we've been working on. Last week really changed things for us. We put 9 properties in contract last week, which is by far a record for anything we've ever done. Weeks before that were horribly slow. It seems to be some things changing. So I think part of it is I've noticed a change in the attitude of a lot of sellers, especially those who need to sell or getting to the point where they need to sell, just from just being on the phones, talking to a lot of people every day. It seems like gone is the belief that my property will sell in 2 days for whatever I want it to sell for, because the reality is that's not the case in the market anymore. Now people seem to have a better grasp of that. Obviously, that's just qualitative data from me talking to people on the phones, but I have noticed a shift there. We've also changed up a lot of things on our end that I think I can credit a lot of those contracts to. So I think I mentioned in a previous week, my rock for the quarter is having a team focus and helping them focus through systems and processes on building relationships with sellers and really the right sellers. So we've gotten better and better at doing that. Everyone's assigned individual leads, they're building relationships with them. So we put that in place a few weeks ago, and I think that kind of started to pay off in this week. Also, one thing that we did is believe 6 of those 9 contracts came from live transfers from cold calls. So they were live transferred over to our team. Some of those leads were actually revived by cold calls. So what we started doing is if we haven't been able to get in touch with someone for a certain amount of time, we throw them back in the cold calling funnel, and then the cold callers try to get them back on the phone, and then they live transfer it to an acquisitions person. Because if an acquisitions person has tried calling them 20 times, it's not necessarily the best use of time for that acquisitions person to keep calling them. Some of these were from just initial cold calls, and some of them were from what we call remarketing, so putting them back through the system, and that seems to have worked really well. We're doing the same thing with our SMS marketing as well. I think another one came from SMS remarketing as well. So just going back and hitting those old people in our system, but doing it in a way that doesn't overtax our acquisitions people has been really helpful. Other stuff that's been working for us is following up with old offers. Things change, even offers that weren't made that long ago. So we've been just going back and seeing where people are at. And that has worked well for us to get contracts. A couple other big changes we made is just our daily stoplight report for our acquisitions team. So our junior acquisitions lead managers, we changed this around. So now it's a lot more targeted as opposed to just make a ton of calls. We put a point system in place. So for our closers, which we call senior acquisitions, there's a point system. So they have to do 100 points a day. And making a call is worth 1 point, or taking an inbound call is worth 1 point. And holding an offer appointment, not just booking an offer appointment, holding one is 33 points. And the idea there is I didn't want people to focus on the wrong things, right? If you tell them you only get points for calls, then if they have an hour-long offer appointment, they may be like, oh, I'm not going to hit my numbers for today. Subconsciously, they may be like, I need to wrap up this offer appointment. We made that shift. And then also on the side of junior acquisitions, which some people call lead managers, they have to make either 100 calls a day or book 2 appointments. And what we found by doing this actually is they're going through the CRM and they're picking better people to call, and they're really getting it done a lot of times. Not every day. Some days are slower than others, but some days they're getting it done and they're booking an appointment after 50 phone calls. They're booking 2 appointments from 50 to 60 calls. I don't have the math in front of me. Maybe it's four conversations to an appointment. I probably have the math there wrong. But the point is they're picking the better people to call instead of just calling to hit the number it dials. So it was helpful to us to put in the metric where they can do either. I don't care if you make 2 calls today and you book 2 great appointments. Why should I care if you make 98 more calls? That's how I looked at it. It seems to be working so far. 2 other big changes we made, and then I'll wrap it up here, is we moved all of our sales training to the morning. So now we just have our morning huddle for 10 minutes or so, and then we roll into our sales training for 30 minutes right after that. So that's been really helpful because it's a lot better for, especially me even too, just energy throughout the day. You don't want to break the day of sales by getting in there and putting a training in the middle of the day. I realized after I got some advice from some people that was a bad idea. So we do that in the mornings now, and that's paid off. Really worked well for the guys as well. And the final thing I did is putting in place is pipeline reviews. I have a one-on-one with each of the sales team members every week. Before that one-on-one, I go through their pipeline in their CRM. I tag things that maybe they didn't update properly in the CRM, or maybe things where I think there's opportunities that we need to do certain things to push across the finish line. It takes me like maybe 15 minutes to go through, tag that, and then add notes And then when I get on the call with the individual, we just go through and I already have that stuff written down ahead of time. So it's a super efficient meeting. I just show them, hey, here's the things you need to make sure you update in the CRM. I do it for them there. And then we talk about some specific scenarios I wrote notes on. And then that gives us time in the rest of that meeting to work on other coaching stuff. So we're really being setting up those meetings so where I'm prepared ahead for that pipeline review. They're sending me questions ahead of time so we make the most of the 30 minutes that we have together. It's only about the second week into doing that, but that seems to be helping a lot. Help them understand how to use the system and why it's important, and also giving them time for some one-on-one coaching that we've both prepared ahead of time. So those are the things that's been making the changes. Now that I say it out loud, it's a lot more changes than I actually thought. That's what I've noticed has been making a difference. We're going to keep doing these things and keep iterating. I think now more than ever, sales and just activity in terms of making calls and talking to the right people is more important than ever. So I'll continue to keep everyone posted on how that stuff works out for us. So hope everyone's has a good week and happy home buying.